Coming off a 3-day holiday weekend, stocks were off to a rough start on Tuesday. The Dow Jones down 543 points, about 1.5%. But the real damage on the NASDAQ, that index tanked by 2.25%. Although the Russell 2000 was actually down by over 3%. But I think inside the NASDAQ, the stocks that got hit the hardest were the biggest winners of 2021, the most overpriced momentum stocks, the ones that comprise the portfolio for the ARK Innovation Fund. I've been talking about that. Cathie Wood's flagship fund down another 4% today, ARK Innovation. It's now down 52%, I think, from its high last year. But as bad as the bloodbath was in the stock market, it's even worse in the bond market. In fact, I think it's the bond market that's driving the stock train. Bonds are off to their worst annual start ever. I think for the stock market, this is just the worst start since 2016. I think maybe it's the third worst start over the last 30 years. In fact, both the NASDAQ and the Russell 2000 are down close to 7% so far this year. But it's the bonds that are really taking it on the chin. I think today was the worst day for the bond market since March of last year. This is the highest yields have been in over 2 years, up almost 100 basis points today. The yield settled at 1.865 on the 10-year, 30-year 2.184. These are still very, very low yields, but what's important is the trajectory and how much higher these yields can climb. In fact, if you look at the forecast now, most people are expecting now 5 rate hikes in 2022. In fact, a lot of people think the first rate hike, which is going to come in March, may even be 50 basis points. So we would lift off with a 50 basis point hike. In fact, Bill Advocaat is one of the people advocating for the 50 basis point surprise hike. He's calling it shock and awe. The ridiculous part about it is that 50 basis points is almost as ridiculous as 25 basis points. It's not shock and awe when you're talking about 7% inflation. And move from 0 to 50 basis points is still recklessly low interest rates. And for a Fed that's actually serious about fighting inflation, raising interest rates to 50 basis points is not nearly enough for the task at hand. Yet given the incredible amount of leverage that's in the system, a 50 basis point rate hike can still do a lot of damage. And I think Bill Ackman is underestimating the extent of the damage, but not just the damage from the initial hike, but from all the subsequent hikes, which aren't going to do any good about slowing down this inflation freight train. In fact, look at the price of oil. I mentioned on my podcast last week that I thought we would hit a new high in oil prices this week. And we did. In fact, as I'm recording this podcast, we're almost at $86 a barrel. We're at $85.93. The market is still trading up $2.63 today. This is a 7-year high in the price of oil. But if you look at a chart, there is a lot of room for the oil price to keep going up. In fact, oil prices could be up more in 2022 than they were in 2021. And in fact, a lot of the energy cost increases from last year were absorbed by the producers. It's 2022 where they're going to get around to passing on those hikes to the consumers. So there is going to be a lot more upward pressure on the CPI despite the Fed's rate hikes. Even if we get them, even if we get more than the market expects, it still won't be enough to stop inflation from getting worse. And it seems clear that the bond market is slowly starting to pick up on this reality. Now, when it fully grasps it, the dollar will be tanking. It won't rally like it did today. Today we had some strength in the dollar, but at least the gold market didn't sell off. Now, it didn't rally, but one market that did was silver. The price of silver was up about 50 cents an ounce today. We closed around 23 and a half. That is a big move, especially on the day where the price of gold slipped about $5 an ounce. You don't normally see silver prices that strong unless you have a strong day in the gold market. But this really shows you the underlying strength in the commodity complex due to all the inflation that is already baked in this cake. But gold had a hard time rising today against that backdrop of surging bond yields. But at some point, investors are going to realize that surging nominal yields mean nothing to the gold market because real yields are not rising. The Fed is so far behind the curve.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.